Hey there. This is Lisa Treadwell, and I'm here with my coach since 2010. Oops, I think it just came on. I'll say it real quick again. This is Lisa Treadwell. I'm here with my coach since 2010. She's seen me through a lot. Nikki Buckelew. Hello there.
Hey, Lisa. Yeah, you've come a long way. You were already really good, and now you're just, I would consider one of the best. So I take a little bit of credit for that, about this much.
I did. You should, as you should, because you coached me through quite a lot. All right, so we only have a short
Yeah.
time, so let's just dive right in. Who are you, and why should anybody be listening to you right now?
Yeah. Well, that's a really good question because I'm not always sure that I know the answer to that. I could talk about myself for a long time because I have a long resume, but I think really what people want to hear about is what you and I think about this whole thing about real estate and specialization and all that. So I tell you what, how about would you be okay with me skipping the bio and skipping the resume and just telling people, hey, Google Nikki Buckelew and let them look up my bio and let's just talk about what matters. How's that feel? Yeah.
That feels great. Yeah,
Okay.
Google
Cool.
Nikki Buckaloo, and you will see lots of entries
Yeah,
about
and if
me.
you see anything that is a concern, please email me. Let me know. I think
Nikki
it's all good, but
should be all good. Yeah. Okay, so you have a series called Senior Living Truth series where you educate seniors, and so I think that you chose that title because you are pretty much like what you see is what you get, and I think that's why we get along so well. You
probably, yeah.
tell the truth, whether it's what people want to hear, it's more about what people need to hear. And so let's talk about that. Your education to seniors and how you got there and why it matters so much.
So we chose when we decided to do seminars, Lisa, just to touch on that a little bit, we had to come up with a name of an education series, and I was so frustrated at the time. Some of those frustrations have persisted, but I was so frustrated at the time that education out in the marketplace, both for real estate agents, but mainly for consumers, was misleading. So a lot of times there was like a bait and switch, or there was some sort of a hook attached. So they would invite people to a seminar and they would tell them what they want to hear and then they give them lunch, right? And there was always a sales pitch. So when we decided to name our series for our personal business, right, our personal real estate
Yeah.
business, we called it the Truth Series because I said I'm going to tell the truth. I'm gonna put it out there, and I'm gonna probably make some enemies in doing so, but I'm okay with that because people deserve to hear the truth. And I've really kind of taken that same approach with the Seniors Real Estate Institute when it comes to training and coaching real estate agents on specializing, because I feel like the same thing is happening in our industry. The real estate industry is not necessarily always as forthright about what needs to be said. So
Yeah.
anyway, I
Talk
think
about
I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
what needs to be said. What myths are out there? What is being said well? What's not being said well,
Yeah.
in your opinion?
Yeah. Well, we just came through, and we're still in the midst of this whole, debacle with the National Association of Realtors, a lawsuit, and these brokerages being sued for kind of really more or less a lack of transparency, right? The consumer misunderstands how we get paid, right? And you know what's interesting about that, really quick? That's not our topic for today, but I have to address it because I had lunch with a really good friend of mine who's in his 80s a couple weeks ago after the lawsuit was the settlement was announced. And he's been in business for, gosh, 50 plus years, maybe 60 now. And he's an insurance guy. He's very intelligent. He's very well read. And we were talking, and he asked me about it. And I said, you know how realtors are paid, right? And he goes, well, maybe I don't. Explain it to me. And I'm like, he honestly, in good faith, did not understand how real estate commissions worked. And it hit me in that meeting. I thought, oh my gosh, the consumer really doesn't understand how real estate transactions are, how they're funded, right? So that said, I really feel like there needs to be more education around that. And real estate agents are clearly not doing a good job. We're not doing a good job of educating our client, like how does the money work, right?
Yeah.
What are you actually paying me for? So anyway, that's one of them. And I frankly, the bar is set way too low for real estate agents. There's
Yeah.
not enough training either to get your license or after you've gotten your license. There's just not enough training.
You were, before
Generally,
the
yeah.
meeting, you were going over some stats with me about that. Did you want to talk about those?
Yeah, well, real estate agents come into this industry from a variety of different backgrounds, right? Some have education, some don't. The majority don't have higher education. There's only, I think, what we say is about 12% of the entire real estate industry real estate agents have a graduate degree. Um, the majority don't have any education, maybe some college education, high school education for sure. But what I think is interesting is that they get into the industry after being in any other field, mostly sales and retail is kind of the statistic, is mostly real estate agents come from sales and retail, but then they come from other worlds too. But you can get your real estate license in a weekend. I mean, you can literally study for your real estate license, take the class in a weekend now online,
Yeah.
and take the test and become a real estate agent. And you're licensed in the state to sell a piece of property. And then you have about a year, I think, in most states. I know in Oklahoma, that's what it is, about a year to do what they call post-licensing education, right? And frankly, that's not enough, right? Like you
Right.
should have to have more education before you get to go out and deal with that person's largest asset. That's just me. Anyway.
It's a slippery slope. I know I do talk about this, and I know people that are for higher education in terms of, when we're selling real estate, and I know people that are totally against it. And I don't know their arguments there, but it's not I don't think it's a popular argument that people need to have a higher education, because there are so many people, there are people who do very, very well in real estate
Right.
or in business in
Right.
general, in life,
Yep.
without a
Yep.
degree.
Okay,
So,
so let's talk about the difference though between what you're referring to, because you're right. There are some amazingly successful business people, sales and otherwise, without a college degree or without any additional education, which is totally fine. But you and I both know that when you're working with longtime homeowners and people who are downsizing after living in their house for decades, raising their children there, all their stuff is there, and they're having to make a life change, it is not a simple real estate transaction.
right.
And so if you don't know anything other than how to sell a house, that's not really probably going to serve that client as well as somebody who has taken time to learn about people, right? Which is,
Sure.
um,
A more
it's a whole different sales.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
different thing. Yeah.
So, on that topic a little bit, so you're talking about agents who have decided to take this seniors real estate, and serving seniors very seriously. And in fact, it's a niche. It's something that, well, my team, we exclusively specialize in that, and
Yep.
lots of other people do around the country. In fact, you trained me. So what do you think about niching yourself out like that? It's counterintuitive. Tell
It
us more about
is. Yeah, I don't know if you want to get into your story a little bit, but I remember when you and I first started talking about this, and it was kind of foreign to you. And I said, "Hey, you really should think about just focusing your attention on helping seniors who are downsizing and who are selling a long time residence." And um, you kind of pushed back, as I recall, a little bit. That you were young, right? You were in
yeah,
your young
2010.
adult.
Mhm.
You're, and no offense, but it's been a little while, and you know but you had young kids, right? Like you were raising little kids and you had a new relationship at the time and you were juggling, as I recall, work life balance. That was
Yeah.
really what we were coaching on.
Hmm.
And I said to you, why would you not specialize in this niche? Because most of my clients are retired and they don't need you to come over at 7 o'clock at night. They
Right.
don't need you to be there at 10 o'clock on a Saturday morning when you'd rather be at Helen's soccer game, right?
Yeah.
And a light bulb went off and you went, okay, I'm curious. But then the more you got into it, you also,
Mhm.
I'm going to speak for you and you tell me if you're right. But what I remember, Lisa, is that you fell in love with being of service to people again, not just selling real estate. Is that accurate?
That's a good assessment. I took a trip down to Florida. My grandma was sick, and I inadvertently became an advocate for her. And I started looking around at all of these people in the community and realized this is an underserved demographic, and
Yep.
let's make it a mission to serve them. So then I came
It
back and
was
said,
perfect timing.
yeah.
It was
Mhm.
perfect timing. And so, I'm so glad you reminded me of that story because I had forgotten about that. And, I'm so used to being the interviewer, Lisa. You can tell it's like I flipped it around. I'm like, now I'm
Yeah,
interviewing you.
I
I
know.
can't help it. It's a habit.
Fun.
But I think that's an important part of the story to answer your question, though, right? Because you and I also talked before about how in real estate, how important it is that people do have a niche. And whatever that is, whether it's seniors or whether it's luxury or whether it's high rise condos and you live in a major metro area, whatever it is,
Yeah.
because it helps you really focus your attention because real estate is a massive um, opportunity, right? That every property out there is an opportunity. Like I could sell any property in the whole state of Oklahoma or Florida, wherever I'm licensed. But if I thought about it like that, I would never get up in the morning because it's too much.
Yeah.
All I know is every single day, excuse me, all I know is every single day when in my real estate role, when I have my real estate agent hat on, is I ask myself, who today has a house that no longer suits them? They've lived in it too long, or it's too big, or it's become unmanageable, that I can help get into a more manageable, more suitable house for them. And
Sure.
that I can focus my attention on.
Right. Yeah. So it is counterintuitive, but I think about it as like a dentist. Would you go to a general dentist to get braces or get a root canal when you could go to an endodontist who specializes in root canals or an orthodontist who specializes in braces? That's what they do all the time. That's what they
Right.
know. And so why wouldn't we be any different, right?
Well, partially, I think, Lisa, is it's an evolution. There didn't always used to be those specialists, right? I remember when I was a kid, I was, I think, 12 or 13 when I got braces, and I lived in a small rural town in Oklahoma, and my dentist actually put my braces on. Um, I, I didn't go anywhere else because there were no specialists.
Sure.
So now I'm telling my age for sure, right? Which I'm very proud of to be 53 years old. I have no problem with that. But to say that when my kids, when came time for them to have braces, absolutely, I would never, like my general dentist would look at me like, "What do you mean I'm not put
Mhm.
braces on? You need to go see a specialist who does that."
Yeah.
So real estate agents are behind. We're behind. We haven't caught up with the fact that, generally speaking, we haven't caught up. Some have, that's how the world works, that when you have
Yeah.
a specialized need, you should call a specialist. But real estate agents are all placed in the same bucket by the consumer, but they're
Mhm.
also placed in the same bucket by NAR. When you think about it, our National Association of Realtors, they don't differentiate for people. Like when they're marketing, their marketing campaign doesn't say go out and find a specialist realtor. It says go out and find a realtor where we can all help you. Just call any of us. We can
Yeah.
all help you.
Which that becomes then overwhelming to the consumer, right?
Correct. Yep.
And so we've got agents who are overwhelmed and undereducated, and we've got consumers who are overwhelmed and undereducated. And now we're behind because we haven't been innovative. Um, we haven't
Yeah.
been innovative in our
So
careers.
you asked me to share some truths. I have a truth for you. You ready for this one? It just hit me
Yeah.
when you said that. So the National Association of Realtors knows because their reports tell us that more than 52% of homeowners that sell their home in any given year over the past 5 years are over the age of 60 or 65. I can't remember the exact stat,
More than
but
52.
yeah, 52%. But here's what they don't do. At their national real estate conference, they have no session on working with seniors. Zero, nada, none. I have applied to speak at the National Association of Realtors conference for 5 years and have been told that's not an important topic to our members for 5 years.
So how do
But
we?
their own statistics, Lisa, tell us that that's the people that are needing to be served. Yeah.
So our own professional organizations are not serving us.
No.
Wow, there's a surprise. So how do we, if I wanted to, I'll just use senior real estate because that's what you specialize in. If I wanted to specialize in real estate and I really loved seniors and I did want to serve that population, how would I find information that's valid and that will teach me what I need to learn?
That's the hard part too, right? So, I mean, obviously it's very self-serving for me to say, hey, just call the Seniors Real Estate Institute. But let me tell you what my bigger issue is the truth of the matter is it's hard to fact check whether or not you're getting valid, credible information,
Right.
like you said, right? I'll give you an example. So when we first launched the Seniors Real Estate Institute back in, gosh, what's it been now? 12, 13 years ago, something like that. Officially, we'd been training people for a while before that. I did it because the education that was being offered through the National Association was being taught largely by non-realtors. The people teaching their course about working with realtors, for realtors about working with seniors, was being taught by reverse mortgage lenders, long-term care insurance agents, other vendors that had never even sold a house, much less have any education around older adults. And I was mortified. I was very disillusioned. Obviously, I started a whole company around it. And it's not changed, by the way. It's not changed. So you go take a class that is, let's say, endorsed by our trade associations, nationally or statewide. You need to ask, who is the instructor for that class? Who's instructing that class? Are they instructing it because they actually know that topic, or are they instructing it because they've paid to play? They have paid somebody for the opportunity to be in front of that class so that they can get leads for their own purposes. And that's a very different type of class than a class where we're there to teach people how to serve. And so anyway, that's one of my truths that I think needs to be noted.
So where do we find that education then? And how you're saying it's hard to fact check and look at credentials.
Right.
I suppose we look into the instructor of each class.
Sure. So I think the best way is to look around, and I've always done this. You know, I was with Keller Williams for 25 years. We've had our own brokerage now for several years, but I grew up with the messaging from Gary Keller at Keller Williams was always find a model and follow that model, right? Look around and see who has been doing this successfully, and then figure out how you can either train with them, coach with them, or shadow them, right? Follow the model, right? Follow a model that works. So for agents right now, I would say look around at who's doing it. Now, let me say, there are some really great agents out there that have not been trained by us. I mean, no doubt, right? We're not the only ones doing this. There are agents, matter of fact, there's probably at least a half a dozen that I know of personally that I kind of follow who have the National Association designation, which is SRES, Seniors Real Estate Specialist. And I'm going to tell you something, though. They didn't get good at what they're doing by taking that class. They took the class years and years and years ago. Yeah, they have built upon that learning, and they have gone out and they have basically pioneered what they're doing. Sure. What I did was I said, okay, that was me. I took that class. I learned a few things, and I went, this is not enough. So I added and added and added and added and added. And then I said, okay, I'm going to take everything I added to my own business that I had to learn myself, and I'm going to create a class around that. So what we've done essentially is we've taken we've taken a associate's degree level class and we have made it into a PhD level class, right? And that's what I would say. So what you're looking for is a model and to follow. And the model that we teach it's versatile, right? There's no one way to do this. You don't do your business the same way every other CSHP does it.
Right. Yeah. So I had on my list of things to talk about with you and something that you do teach in your course, because I know it's 10:22. You talk about active listening, and you talk about words. Words matter. Can you elaborate on those two ideas?
Sure. Okay, so what you're referring to is even in more advanced course that we teach called Downsizing Coach Skills Training.
You did not ask me to ask that question, right? I made that question up myself. Hey.
Yeah, that was your
You to say this, folks.
Well, so here's what I love about that question, because I wasn't really prepared to go down this trail, but that is to me, that's a next level learning. So what happens is a lot of agents learn how to work with seniors. They learn the downsizing process. They learn how to refer to an estate liquidator and a move manager and a placement person, all these things. But then what happens is they've served enough people to know that there are some that they just can't seem to really help. And they call, or they ask me, or they ask one of us, how do I help this person? And when they give the scenario, it's almost like they need to refer that person to a therapist, right? Because
there's more based on the scenario that they're giving you.
There's a lot of deeper issues, right?
Yeah.
And what you're talking about is sometimes the people that we serve are stuck. They have this sense of loss. They don't want to move out of this home. They've lived in it for 50, 60 years. Maybe they're widowed. Maybe they lost a child that lived in that home. All of the belongings are there. All the memories are there. All of the comforts are there. And now, for whatever reason, and there's a whole host of those we can't get in today, they have to move out of that home, right? And sometimes the best value an agent brings to the table is a conversation over a cup of coffee and listening to that person feel their way through letting go of that house. They don't need comps. They don't need the CMA. They don't need all your glossy materials about your company. They just need you to be human for a little bit.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
It's counterintuitive for most real estate agents, right?
Absolutely.
We go in fully ready, like sign the listing agreement, like we've got the 30-minute listing presentation.
Yeah.
And my consultations are sometimes 2.5, 3 hours long. I know yours are too.
Yeah.
And we never get paperwork out.
No. Okay, so how do we learn from you more than just this 30-minute conversation?
Well, so if you're asking, I'd love to do a little quick promo really for a class that's coming up actually in your backyard in Indianapolis. We don't do as many live classes as we used to because frankly, to be really, again, here's another truth. Are you ready? Real estate agents don't want to invest 2 days of their life in a classroom to learn something. It's interesting. And I'm generalizing, but it is harder than one might think to get people to sign up and pay for a class that doesn't have a lead magnet attached to it. Like if they sign up for a class, they want to know they're going to get 10 leads tomorrow.
Or they're going to get CE because they need CE.
Or they're going to get CE. Oh yeah, right. And we don't do CE because I don't want to be told how to teach class. Okay. So
that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other conversation. So the class in Indianapolis is 2 days. It's in May. And I think, and we'll put that information out in the replay for people. The 2 days is just the foundation, right? It's just the beginning because the class is just information. You can't learn just from going to class. And so from that, after they finish the class, whether they do it online or they take the live class in Indy or other places, then there's part 3. And Part 3 is what we call our business blueprint. And they go from the class to taking action on learning things. They actually implement things, right? And everything they implement, it's kind of like defending a master's thesis or a doctorate dissertation for your doctorate. You go out, you do the research, you do the work, and then you document it. And then you come back to us at Seniors Real Estate Institute and say, okay, I've done the work. Now I want to apply for certification. And they go through a process to do that. It's not just you pay your money and you get a certification like most of the other ones out there in the industry are, which is the other reason a lot of people they go the easy route. They do the easy thing, and then they come back to us and go, okay, I didn't learn what I needed. I'll do the harder route now. But that wasn't your question. So how do they find out? How do they find out about it? seniorsrealestateinstitute.com is our website, or you can do SREI.us for short, obviously. But I think what I would love people to do, and this is, and we recommend anytime somebody calls our office and says, I'm thinking about taking your class. Why should I take it instead of these others? Yours is more expensive. Yours is harder to get the certification.
Yeah.
What we do is we ask them to call and talk to somebody like you, one of our certified members who have been through the program and have implemented it and have been using the tools. And then ask that person, ask 3 or 4 of them, how would you go about this? What would you do? Because I can tell you to take the class. I wrote the class, so I'm a little bit biased, right? I could sell you on the class, but you have to really talk to your colleagues, because what I'm hearing from most people, Lisa, is they go take the SRES class through NAR, which is, easy peasy, very inexpensive, pay your money, do the online class and get it. And then they come to one of your, seminars and they go, how did you learn to do all this stuff? And you go,
I didn't learn that in the class.
Right. I didn't learn that in the class. Yeah. So you have to go, and this is this is a truth that frustrates me to death. Real estate agents will say, oh, I already have taken that class. Oh, I already have a designation. And I'm like, so you're done? That's kind of like saying, oh, my child went to kindergarten. He doesn't need first grade. Oh, my child went to first grade. We don't need to send him to high school.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, he went to high school. We don't need to send him to college. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's
it's
ridiculous.
Important to keep learning. I tell my kids, if you're not learning, you're not living.
That's it. Yeah, 100%. Now you're talking. So that's funny because the audience may not know this, but you're talking to 2 people who have gone back to school in their 40s, right? And then you're getting your master's, I know, and finishing that up.
Yeah.
Your MBA. I finished my doctorate in 2018, and people thought I had lost my mind.
Yeah.
And
I told my mom, I think I want to go to law school after this. And she thinks I'm a loony bird. I probably won't do law school, but it is very interesting to me.
Chris said the same thing, Lisa, because, he's been doing this as long as I have. And he goes, you know what? Law school isn't a bad idea because our clients deal so much with legal issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so why not? And that's just it. We just keep looking at, this isn't education for us, and I know for you, it's not education for education's sake.
Right.
It's not so you have a degree.
It's so we can help our clients.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I wanted to study this more, and I wanted to understand better what people are dealing with. And so I went the psychology route, you went the business route. But it's really about understanding people and their situation and being able to have the tools then to help them solve the problem. And so what we try to do at Seniors Real Estate Institute is we wrap our education, we use real life proven things. We don't just make stuff up and teach it for the fun of it. We take what you've learned at your MBA class and apply it. We take what I learned in my psychology classes and we apply that. And here's what I'm really excited about. This is something I haven't announced to anybody. Can I share it with you here?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. This is exciting.
So, yeah, right. So our faculty and our coaching team is expanding. As you know, that you've been asked to be involved in that. And we have a very specific criteria of people in that group that we're looking for. We want agents who have had successful real estate businesses. We want agents who have had higher education in various areas, not just one, but in various areas. And most importantly, we want agents who are focused on serving the client. It's not just about making a bunch of money. Yes, you want to make money.
I
Yes,
mean,
you
you
have to be
do make
profitable, but
money in this industry.
yes.
I mean,
Oh
and
my
in this
gosh.
niche, you absolutely do
Yeah,
make money, but that's like the icing on the cake, right?
it is, right? So just to ask you a question before I know we got to go, but let me ask you a quick question. When we were coaching and you were looking for life balance, did specializing in the senior niche give you that life balance you were looking for?
Oh, 100%. 100%. And the girls on my team, they will tell you the same thing because we don't work on weekends typically. I mean, 97, 99% of the time, we're not working on the weekends and we're not working on in the
Right.
evenings.
Right. And your clients are fine with that. They're good with that.
Well,
It's
I don't
not
even
like
have to
you're
tell them. They want to meet Monday through Friday between the hours of about 11 to 3-ish.
yeah.
I mean, they don't want to wake up early, and
Right.
about 3 o'clock, they're thinking about dinner time and going
Yep.
to bed or watching their
Right.
shows. Yeah. So,
Well, my clients at 4 o'clock are popping a cork on a bottle of wine,
yeah,
and
that too.
they don't want to talk to me after that. So yeah, or I can come over while they're drinking
Mhm.
wine, and we can do it together. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you say. Thank you for taking the time to ask me these questions. I think we're not having. I think I do a lot of educating, right? Like I teach a lot of classes, but I think Lisa, what we're not doing very well as a maybe industry, but also definitely just a niche, is we're not having like real conversations about the real issues. And maybe that's our next step, right? Maybe we have more of these kind of conversations. And I'll interview you next time and find out what
Great.
your top 5 truths are.
That's fun. No, I was actually just telling the girls on my team, we need to do better at telling our story. We need to be better at storytelling
Right.
because I meet so many people. Just yesterday, I spoke at a senior community, and a man that lives there said, I wish I would have known about you 14 months ago. And we hear that all the time because we're not doing a good enough job about telling our story.
Right.
So, yeah.
The investors are winning. They're winning.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's a whole nother conversation. But you're right, 100%. So, matter of fact, we're going to be talking about that at conference this year, at the Legacy Conference in October. One of the sessions is on telling your story as a means of educating your clients. So, anyway, that's just
That's awesome.
a side note.
Well, thank you for this on the fly little interview. This wasn't practiced. We
No.
talked a tiny bit about what we were going to talk about just to have a good flow to everything, but we didn't really, it's not scripted.
No, this wasn't scripted. You know, Lisa, I don't like to do scripted things. I like to prepare, don't get me wrong, but I
Yeah.
don't like to do scripted things because I think what happens when you script things is you're trying to tell people what they want to hear rather
Yeah.
than what's really important. So,
It's
yeah,
good.
this is
It's
more
good.
fun. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, girl. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.